Imagine a universe governed by unquestionable logic and mathematical coldness. For the Xylar Collective, an advanced species that dominated tens of thousands of star systems, perfection was the only law of the cosmos. In the forgotten confines of their immense intelligence archives, there existed an ancient legend, a purely fictional tale, used only as a theoretical simulation exercise in military academies. The myth spoke of a biological anomaly, an extreme-class savage planet plagued by crushing gravity and relentless solar radiation. Even more absurd was the idea that an intelligent species had emerged from this hostile environment, forged in pure chaos and endowed with an almost immortal physiological stubbornness. The leaders of Xylar laughed at this mathematical impossibility. Humanity for them was just a fable designed to scare fresh recruits, until the fateful day the impossible stared back. Today's video narrates an imaginary and epic tale about the exact moment the proudest and most unbeatable fleet in the galaxy decided to invade a forgotten sector. Pay close attention and stay until the end to discover how a simple tactical miscalculation taught the entire universe that humans were not only real, but absolutely unstoppable. High-Strategist Zynor stared into the absolute darkness through the panoramic viewport with a deep-rooted boredom. His immense mothership, shielded by prismatic mirrors and antimatter force fields, led the eradication fleet through the remote, unexplored frontier of Tenebris. The mission of that cycle was monotonous: map the region, catalog magnetic anomalies, and vaporize any rudimentary life form that dared to exist outside the collective standards. For beings of fragile anatomy and supreme intelligence who won wars across continental distances with just the push of a button, the expedition was a waste of tactical resources. However, the calculating silence of the command bridge was shattered by a shrill, piercing alert, completely outside operational norms. The hyperspace radars detected a massive structure orbiting the ruins of a dead planet. The visual projections left the crew astonished. There was no refined aerodynamics or dark matter thrusters. It was a brutalist monstrosity of primitive titanium alloys, thick and welded together with zero aesthetic regard. Even worse, the structure was propelled by the savage violence of nuclear fission reactors, a technology so unstable and volatile that the Xylar aliens considered it practically suicidal. When the fleet's supercomputer tried to process the biological signature inside that base, the main core froze for a split second. The screen flashed a critical alert, revealing that the specimens possessed a terrifying bone density and neurological systems capable of pumping toxic adrenaline straight into their veins to bypass pain. The data matched Terran folklore exactly. Refusing to accept that a myth was challenging his reality, Zynor made a drastic decision. Without sending a single warning of surrender, he ordered the heavy plasma batteries to open fire. A massive beam of intense heat tore through space, designed to vaporize the cosmic anomaly instantly. Zynor leaned back in his chair, awaiting the confirmation of total annihilation. Alien pride was about to make its first and final mistake. The blast of pure plasma, concentrated with enough energy to boil the oceans of an entire world, hit the human space base dead on. On the enemy fleet's panels, the tactical algorithms registered the collision and predicted the total disintegration of the target at a molecular level. The High-Strategist waited for the thermal storm to end, wrapped in the arrogance of a species that had never known military failure. However, when the antimatter smoke cleared, the silence on the alien command bridge became dense and suffocating. The metallic structure had not collapsed. The millennial mathematics of the collective failed to comprehend the scene. The shielding of that station did not rely on exquisite refraction shields, but on successive, grotesque layers of steel and titanium, sacrificially designed to melt and absorb extreme damage. It was survival engineering forged in chaos. Alien doctrine dictated that any survivors would initiate a desperate retreat, but the Terran anomaly did not back down. The invading fleet's sensors triggered chaotic alerts when the base's unstable nuclear reactors went into an intentional overload. Colossal mechanical hatches opened along the scorched sides of the structure, revealing endless rows of heavy artillery. The Xylar ships maximized their force fields, expecting retaliation with focused laser beams. The real nightmare arrived in fractions of a second. The humans didn't use light. The coordinated recoil of the shots was so violent it pushed the station itself backward into the vacuum. They hurled tons of solid tungsten using electromagnetic acceleration. The sophisticated alien shields, perfect for dissipating radiation and heat, completely ignored physical matter traveling at hypervelocity. The rudimentary projectiles tore through the gleaming ships from end to end, causing catastrophic decompressions. The apex predator of the galaxy had tragically discovered that it had awakened a relentless monster. Zynor experienced a severe neurological collapse, something his arrogant species had supposedly eradicated from their genetic code millennia ago. Pure, uncontrollable terror. In less than 4 minutes of brutally one-sided combat, the untouchable eradication fleet was reduced to a floating graveyard of silver wreckage. Where pinpoint precision and advanced calculations failed, the brute force of human kinetic engineering prevailed absolutely. The holographic screens on the main bridge cracked and went dark, reporting critical structural failures while the mothership's artificial intelligence repeated a constant evacuation warning. The Terran tactic, however, proved to be far worse than a simple passive defense. From the thick cloud of debris and chemical smoke generated by the initial bombardment, heavily armored boarding pods emerged at hypervelocity. They weren't vehicles guided by complex sensors, but rustic torpedoes propelled in a kamikaze fashion, physically aimed to pierce the hulls of the enemy ships. The biological anomaly's goal wasn't just to repel the invaders, but to commandeer the surviving cruisers and assimilate their cutting-edge military technology. Realizing that the capture of his flagship would hand the coordinates of billions of collective citizens over to a species driven by the unyielding fury of survival, the High-Strategist took an action that would seal his eternal disgrace. He activated the isolated spatial warp drive restricted only to his command cabin, abandoning the rest of his crew to their fate in the dark vacuum. In his final seconds, before tearing through the fabric of hyperspace, Zynor sent a single encrypted distress transmission back to his homeworld, confirming the unthinkable. The galaxy's folklore nightmare was awake and absolutely hungry for retaliation. The corrupted data file left behind by that fleeing transmission was the only legacy that returned to the Xylar Collective in that unforgettable cycle. This purely fictional tale illustrates an imaginary scenario where the cosmic balance of power is irrevocably inverted. The supreme minds of the universe learned, through the complete annihilation of their pride, that sterile perfection means absolutely nothing in the face of a hostile world's unpredictability. In the vast darkness, the humanity of this narrative proved that victory does not belong to the most elegant or mathematically advanced, but to those who violently refuse to accept their own extinction under any circumstances. If this intense narrative about the unbreakable spirit of the human race has captured your attention up to this exact second, the next step is essential. For the recommendation algorithms to recognize that dense, immersive scripts deserve to dominate the platform, your engagement is the core piece. Subscribe to the channel right now, turn on the notification bell, and leave a like on this video, ensuring your direct access to future narrative explorations into the unknown. And before this transmission ends, scroll down to the comment section and leave your strategic perspective on the record. If you were in command of that isolated human space station, what would be your first tactical order immediately after destroying the enemy fleet? Your insight fuels the debate and strengthens this community. Thank you so much for following another script to the very end. Keep your resilience flawless, and until our next encounter across the stars.